Well, give me my drink.
Paul, behave.
Give me my drink.
No,
I think he's a drunk.
I look over at Allie, the owner, and she's on a customer's shoulders getting a piggyback ride.
Ever wonder what happens when a rescue mission goes completely off the rails? In this video, we're diving into the wildest and most unbelievable disasters from bar rescue. The ones that Jon Taffer couldn't even fix. From stubborn owners to chaotic staff meltdowns, these are the moments that left bars worse off than when they started. Buckle up, because this is gonna be one wild ride. Hold on to your seats, because the first bar on our list takes failure to an epic scale.
Extra chocolate martini.
Who came up with that?
That's me. Don't pull that to me.
Swanky Bubbles was a bar in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, owned by John Frankowski and Ryan Dorsey. John got the idea for the place after visiting a successful champagne bar in New York City. At its peak, Swanky Bubbles was raking in $100,000 a month, which was no small feat.
In our heyday, this place was doing $100,000 in business a month.
But as you could probably guess, things didn't stay great forever, which is why Jon Taffer and Bar Rescue had to step in. Let's be real, you didn't see bars that were thriving asking for John's help, right?
I like to see beautiful women when I go places, and
3 years ago, Swanky Bubbles began losing its shine, and with it, a lot of money. They started bleeding about $4,000 a month. John was hardly ever around anymore, leaving Ryan to run the show on his own. The pressure was intense, and to top it off, the servers weren't making much in tips.
And I've seen him maybe 10, 15 times.
But Ryan's idea of keeping the customer happy had been hurting the services of the bar.
If you see a group of ladies having a good time, you throw them a bottle of champagne.
Jon Taffer and his wife Nicole did their usual stakeout, sitting in their SUV outside the bar. Nicole headed inside to do some recon, something she used to do a lot on the show. The bar had this awkward permanent gate that the staff had to duck under just to get behind the bar, a total design fail.
Just the name right there shuts it down.
One of the worst names I've ever heard.
Nicole and her friend Valerie acted like they were just two single ladies out for a night of fun. They noticed that the menu had a lot of problems.
Given our drink menus, I couldn't get over the side
Ryan came over, chatted them up, and even offered them a free drink with some not-so-subtle flirting.
that would ever come to a place that had a sexual chocolate martini.
They left, and the next day, John laid into the staff, pointing out that Ryan was a big part of the problem.
And he's Mr. Ego, Mr. Pride, Mr. Frickin' Perfect.
The bar was cramped and filthy, and the bartenders confessed they often ran out of liquor and had to buy it themselves just to keep working.
When I look back here and look at the filth down there and the disorganization here,
John brought in Chef Brian Hill, who was immediately grossed out by the smell coming from the dishwasher.
whoa.
I couldn't believe
Mixologist Elaine Duke tested the bartender's skills with some basic drinks and told John that the bar staff needed more space. Chef Brian also noted that the menu was way too big. John suggested turning the bar into a social club for women with a simplified menu and trendy drinks. But Ryan was in total denial about his behavior, and John warned him that if he wanted the bar to survive, he needed to change. Chef Brian stressed the importance of sanitizing the dishwasher every night, but the cook was so annoyed that he walked out. John reminded Ryan to either step up or step aside. The staff gathered to taste the new menu, and they all seemed to like it.
Need to do this.
During the stress test, the bartenders struggled to keep up, especially Tim, who couldn't handle the drink orders. John had enough and told Tim to leave. The kitchen was slow too, with ticket time stretching to an hour. Imagine waiting that long just to get your food.
I know. I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
It was crazy. Customers filled out comment cards, and John sat down with the staff to go over the night's failures, pointing out that Ryan's lack of leadership really hurt them. John was eager to ditch the old decor, and after the renovation, the bar got a new name, Sheer. The place looked much classier, and Ryan even hired a new cook to replace the one who quit. There was a bachelorette party at Sheer that night, and while they started off unhappy with the service, the staff managed to turn things around and send them off happily.
Sheer is modern and new.
The new name, Sheer, didn't stick around for long. Sheer shut down for good around November 2011, just a few months after its Bar Rescue episode aired on TV. By the time it closed, the bar had reverted to its original name, Swanky Bubbles, instead of sticking with the name Jon Taffer gave it. The bar was an epic failure. There were two main reasons: issues with its liquor license and tax liens against the bar. First off, the bar was having serious trouble with its liquor license, which is obviously a huge problem. It seems like the owners of Swanky Bubbles and their landlord were caught up in a dispute over who actually owned the liquor license. Either way, its status ended up being inactive, meaning Swanky Bubbles couldn't legally serve alcohol. Then, on October 27, 2011, the Common Pleas Court barred the Swanky Bubbles owners from selling the license because the landlord claimed it belonged to the property. On top of that, there were tax liens against the bar, which pointed to some serious money troubles. As of 2023, the old Swanky Bubbles location in Philadelphia is home to a British pub called the Victoria Freehouse. But the drama doesn't stop there. Next up, we've got a bar that takes failing to a whole new level.
I look over at Allie, the owner, and she's on a customer's shoulders.
In this bar rescue episode, John Taffer headed to Kilkenny's Irish pub in Redondo Beach, California, which was owned by Allie Speed. Allie and her sister Alexis had used their inheritance to open the place, and it started off strong.
The bar that I worked at closed down.
But things went downhill fast, especially after Allie made her ex-boyfriend the bar's manager. That's when sales took a nosedive, and they desperately needed John Taffer to step in.
This has been my life, and to lose it, I can't take that.
John and his wife Nicole hung out in the SUV while John read some pretty rough reviews of the bar.
Again, this would definitely be the last place I would suggest going for something.
He sent Nicole in to do some undercover recon. Right away, Nicole noticed that the bar had nothing to do with Irish things.
There's nothing Irish about the decor whatsoever.
The bar was unclean and doesn't even have an Irish dish.
The place just looks 1,000 years old. I expect the menu to have some Irish fare on it.
When she looked over the owner, Allie, you won't believe what she was doing.
Customer's shoulders getting a piggyback ride.
Sitting on a customer's shoulder? Oh man, what kind of owner was she? Wasn't she supposed to work? And when Nicole asked her to have a drink with her, this is what happened.
Gladly obliged. Cheers.
Before Nicole left, she caught Allie getting a massage from a customer, which she found gross. And honestly, I was with her on that. It was kind of weird, right?
You never would have known she even worked there.
John met with Allie and talked about the bar's problems. He noticed that the bar manager was not even there. He told her she needed to stop drinking while he was there. Then, he took Allie and Alexis outside to point out why customers might have been avoiding the place. John brought in chef Josh Capon and mixologist Michael Tips to help with the bar's recon. During their walkthrough, Chef Josh discovered chicken thawing in warm water, which was a major health hazard.
Tongs in the garbage. Health department walks in, that's a violation. We see a problem.
On top of that, the bar was a mess and totally disorganized. John wanted to meet Carlos, the manager, but Carlos was too busy texting to care, and it really annoyed John. Carlos seemed checked out and showed zero interest in the bar rescue. The bar's financial records weren't even kept on site, which was another big issue. Chef Josh worked with the head chef, Roberto, asking him to make some popular dishes, while Michael tested the bar staff's drink-making skills. They were missing basic ingredients to make drinks, and Michael was disgusted by the fact that they had margaritas on tap. But Chef Josh saw potential in Roberto and believed he would do well with proper training, especially on the new menu. John sat down with Allie, Alexis, and Carlos to discuss the bar's finances. Carlos got angry during the talk and stormed out.
That's where it sits? Give me a minute. This guy's a joke.
Afterward, John and his crew got to work on the renovations. They brought in new glassware, installed a new POS system, and rolled out a freshly designed menu. Carlos, though, told the staff to go back to their old ways, so the owners decided to fire him.
Must be a professional back there somewhere. This is ridiculous.
Later, they changed their minds and kept him in a lesser role. As part of the revamp, John renamed the bar to Breakwall Bar and Grill. On relaunch day, there was a huge line of people waiting to get in, and in just 1 hour, they sold 3 times as many drinks as they had the week before. The relaunch was a big success.
Surf barbecue bar.
Within 90 days, the newly named Breakwall Bar and Grill saw some big improvements. Surprisingly, Carlos stuck to most of John Taffer's changes, which didn't happen often on Bar Rescue. Business was booming.
I cannot wait to go inside. I can't wait to see it.
But even with all the positive changes, Breakwall Bar and Grill didn't manage to turn into a lasting success. Breakwall closed its doors in 2012, meaning it lasted only about a year after the Bar Rescue episode aired. The main reason for the closure was an issue with their liquor license. They surrendered it on January 25th after withdrawing an application for a new one in December. Allie, the owner of Kilkenny's Breakwall, said, "Unfortunately, we didn't have a choice. We're really grateful to our patrons, employees, and the Redondo Beach community for their support over the past 6 years." After Breakwall shut down, a restaurant called Barney's Beanery took over the old Kilkenny's Breakwall spot near the Redondo Beach Pier for a while. But even Barney's Beanery closed in 2020. As of 2024, the location is still empty, and just when you thought it couldn't get crazier, here's another jaw-dropping disaster from the show.
This is bacteria.
Doesn't matter because we don't have anything to drink once we have our food.
Win Place or Show, a bar in Fairfield, Ohio, featured on Season 2 of Bar Rescue. The bar was owned by Barry Rogers, a US Navy vet who invested his life savings, about $50,000, to buy it. It used to be a biker bar, but Barry tried to turn it into a sports bar.
Put my own stamp on and put my own ideas into it.
Unfortunately, not many people knew about the change, so they kept avoiding the place because of its old reputation. Barry's friend and co-owner, Rudy Garcias, performed at the bar, and Rudy's wife, Tracy, helped out as a bartender, even though she had no experience. Wynn Place or Show had never made a profit and was just 3 months away from shutting down. So John Taffer came in with chef Aaron McCargo and bartending expert Jason Brand to help turn things around. They found that the bar had no clear identity. It looked like a place to bet on horses thanks to its old sign.
I mean, is it for kids or is it for adults? I'm kind of confused here.
When their spy ordered a Long Island iced tea, it was way too strong and the food was rubbery and microwaved.
It's wasteful and it's costing them a lot of money.
It doesn't look very crisp, chef, does it?
It's rubbery.
John confronted Barry and told him that Rudy didn't respect the bar. The kitchen was a mess with old fruit, dirty soda guns, and bad chicken thawing on the counter.
Grill is caked with grease. I even have grease dripping from the pipe.
John also found out that they lost $600 worth of liquor on a single Saturday because Rudy was giving away free beer. Tracy didn't seem to care about the business either.
I didn't go there and ring it. And that is theft.
The experts trained the staff, gave the bar a new electric smoker for BBQ, and introduced a whiskey and bourbon menu to go with it. The staff also learned how to make simple drinks like a BLT and a Tennessee apple.
Going complement location.
But during the stress test, Tracy was a problem and had to be put on the floor where she still struggled.
Guys, hurry up. You gotta go quicker.
Rudy was just greeting guests, leaving Barry to handle most of the management. Customers started leaving because of the poor service, and John called out Rudy and Tracy for not caring.
Walk out because of Tracy's lousy service.
Finally, Taffer made Amber the bartender the co-owner, and Rudy was made to leave the business.
Gonna be a great co-owner.
The next day, John unveiled a renovated bar, now named America Live Bar and Grill. They added a touch-tune sound system for karaoke, a photo booth, and 2 new POS systems. John even promoted the bar on a local radio station, and they put up a big new sign outside, which was a huge improvement over the old kitty design from Wynn Place or Show. During the relaunch, the staff was nervous at first, but customers eventually started enjoying the food and drinks. To top it off, Hailstorm came and played some songs from their new album. But was the America Live Bar Rescue episode a long-term success? Keep reading to find out what happened next, and if this Fairfield, Ohio bar is still open in 2024. Initially, things were looking pretty good. Sales shot up by about 25% just 6 weeks after John's visit, the actual visit, not when the episode aired on TV. But unfortunately, that success was short-lived. Believe it or not, things started to take a turn for the worse even before the America Live episode made it to television. America Live shut down in July 2012, even before the episode aired on TV. There was some drama surrounding the bar's ownership that seemed to play a big role in its closure. In the end, it seems like the closure was more due to legal and ownership issues than the business itself. And if you think that was bad, wait until you see what happened next.
I want you to get the employees angrier.
It was quite honestly one of the most disturbing displays.
The Gypsy Bar Rescue episode aired in August 2013. John Taffer and his team actually visited before that. It was season 3, episode 15, titled Play Some Janet Jackson. Gypsy was located on the famous Paradise Road in Las Vegas, the same street where Paradise Cantina would later appear in season 8 of Bar Rescue. The bar's name was spelled Gypsy, not Gypsy as many people assumed. Paul Sanfilippo had opened Gypsy in 1993, and it was a historic gay bar in Las Vegas. It was the first gay nightclub in the area, but competition came along in the 90s and the bar got stuck in the past.
There was a line out the door. It was just amazing.
Hardly anyone visited anymore, and they were in debt after being fined for not paying live entertainment taxes.
It's caught in some weird 90s.
Taffer found the bar's exterior not at all stylish, and it was unclean as well.
Look at the bird.
To get a sense of what was going on, John Taffer had some Las Vegas nightlife experts spy on the bar. They found that drinks were being served in plastic cups, they were out of vermouth, so the martinis tasted awful.
So that's the way they serve a martini in a plastic glass.
Well, I have a martini. It's just a shot.
On top of that, Paul, the owner, was rude to his staff and drank in the bar, which was never a good sign.
You need to stop yelling at me at the bar.
Based on what was seen, bar owners who drank in their own bar usually weren't great at running the place. When John confronted Paul, he was defensive and claimed his team deserved his abusive behavior. Paul got so confrontational that John ended up sending him home in a taxi to sleep it off. The next day, Paul showed up sober, and John made him promise not to drink in the bar while he was there and to apologize to his staff. John then brought in experts to check out the bar, and they found a lot of dirt, including moldy produce.
The bar was absolutely disgusting.
They had to clean the place up before they could start training. The expert mixologist, Rachel, taught the bartenders how to make a proper gin martini, and a professional bartender took over for the first hour of the stress test so the staff could see how it was done. And the professional bartenders nailed it during the relaunch, and then the Gypsy staff took over. They were nervous and dropped things at first.
Detrimental to the customers and the business.
But the next set of bartenders did a much better job. John praised the staff for their performance during the stress test. John then talked to Paul about creating 3 different stages with short shows that wouldn't disrupt service. The bartenders were also to be part of the show. John brought in Dominique Kelly, a dance expert, to teach the staff some moves. Rachel introduced some new drinks inspired by the sunshine and Florida. However, Paul was not welcoming of the changes. After 36 hours of renovations, John unveiled the new bar, now called SBLV Ultra Lounge. The new name stood for South Beach, Las Vegas, inspired by 1950s Miami. The exterior was eye-catching with bright signs, and the inside looked more upscale. Most of the staff loved the changes, but Paul hated them and called them horrible.
It's absolutely horrible.
Despite that, the relaunch went smoothly, but Paul left that night and never returned to the show, so it wasn't exactly a happy ending. Gypsy's bar rescue experience was short-lived. Just days after the renovation and renaming to SBLV Ultra Lounge, owner Paul shut the bar down and moved his staff to another location. With the bar closing so quickly, there were no reviews to share. About a year later, Paul intended to remodel and reopen the bar, signaling his dissatisfaction with John Taffer's changes. However, issues with permits and contractors stalled the project, and the bar remained closed. The Gypsy Las Vegas location was eventually bulldozed in 2020, with Paul's planned rebuild never materializing, possibly due to COVID-19. In an interview with the Las Vegas Spectrum, Paul said, "I have a passion for this business, and I'm not sparing any expense." He estimated the rebuild would cost around $5 million. Sadly, Paul Sanfilippo passed away in April 2022, so a Gypsy nightclub reopening under his ownership wasn't going to happen. Rest in peace, Paul. However, someone else might reopen the bar given its history. From what was happening at the old Gypsy Las Vegas location, it looked like that could be the case. As if that wasn't enough, here's another story where things went from rescue to wreckage. Rocky Point Cantina, later renamed Havana Cabana Bar and Grill, was a bar in Tempe, Arizona, featured on season 3 of Bar Rescue. The bar was owned by Francis and Mary Massimiano, who bought it for their 2 sons, Scott and Jason, back in 2010. And by the time of the Bar Rescue episode, they had owned it for about 3 years.
Scott basically said to me, "I'll do it."
Rocky Point Cantina was big on live music, especially metal, and was located near Arizona State University, where the sons went to school. Scott managed the bar, while Jason handled maintenance and cooking. However, since Scott didn't have any experience running a bar, he often messed things up, leaving Jason to keep things going.
I think my parents buying this place was a great idea.
Scott even hired a heavy metal band to draw in crowds, but instead, they drove away female customers. Because of all these issues, the bar wasn't doing well and was losing over $10,000 a month. To make matters worse, Fran and Mary were dealing with over $1.5 million in debt.
I don't have really much left except our house, and I'm just upset with Scott.
John Taffer brought in chef Tiffany Derry and mixologist Russell Davis to help out, and they started by sending some female college students to check out the bar. The students were ignored by the bartenders and eventually moved to a different area.
Here's the bar. Seats are empty. Nobody comes around.
After ordering a lackluster signature cocktail, they asked for a beer, but even though the bar had a draft system, they were only serving bottled beer. The place was filthy, from the bar to the kitchen and even the bathrooms.
Look at the filth over there. Look at that grill. And if you watched it, every minute.
When the band started playing, it was so loud that the spies couldn't even hear each other.
We couldn't hear anything. We couldn't have a conversation.
And John and his team stepped in, and Russell immediately called out the bartender for how dirty the bar was.
2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. Is that 2 weeks right there?
Chef Tiffany headed to the kitchen and saw the cook using bad practices, like leaving unwrapped and undated chicken on the counter. John ordered the staff to clean up the place overnight. The next day, John and the experts returned to inspect the now clean kitchen and bar. Fran, Mary, Scott, and Jason had a meeting with John where the parents expressed their disappointment in how Scott had mismanaged the bar. They also agreed that Anthony, one of Scott's friends and the bartender, was a problem.
Anthony's a management nightmare.
Russell began training Anthony, asking him to make 4 different drinks, but Anthony didn't get any of them right. Meanwhile, Chef Tiffany taught Jason how to properly make chicken wings and a quesadilla. With some training under their belts, it was time for the stress test. The bar was packed, but things quickly went south. The owners tried to help, but Anthony kept messing up behind the bar, and food wait time skyrocketed to 30 minutes. Scott even disappeared during the test, and the night ended up being a disaster.
I was expecting Scott to step up as a manager, and he didn't.
Afterward, John gave the staff some tough feedback and suggested they needed a new manager, but Scott had to agree to it. The next day, John met with Fran and Mary and brought in Steve Lynch, a manager from another local bar. Scott decided to give Anthony another chance despite his mistakes. New employees were brought in to work the bar and kitchen, with Scott and Steve working together so Scott could learn how to manage better. Chef Tiffany trained the kitchen staff on a new Mexican-themed menu.
So we had a new menu for him. We
really designed it. I think it's perfect.
while Russell taught the bartenders some university-themed drinks.
Graduate. ASU has a huge population.
As part of the renovation, John renamed the bar from Rocky Point Cantina to Havana Cabana Bar and Grill. He also brought in a social media management team, Constant Contact, to handle their online presence, classic product placement. The relaunch kicked off, and the kitchen struggled to keep up with orders. Anthony had a hard time and eventually bolted, sprinting away from the bar. Luckily, the bar seemed to run better without him.
Anthony is 10 times slower than any of these girl bartenders that we brought in.
At the usual 6-week check-in with the bar rescue producers, it seemed like things were looking up, with Havana Cabana reportedly pulling in $6,000 a night. But that number was a bit misleading because there was a lot of chaos behind the scenes. The bar reverted to its original name, Rocky Point Cantina, soon after John Taffer left, and issues quickly surfaced, leading to its closure. Havana Cabana shut down in August 2013, even before the episode aired. Within 2 months of Taffer's departure, the bar filed for bankruptcy, showing the rescue didn't take hold.
I removed the TV structure so you can see through it.
There was also drama, with local permit issues contributing to the closure. The bar rescue team reportedly didn't secure the proper permits for changes like exterior painting, triggering scrutiny from the Tempe government. This led to the discovery of other unpermitted work. The switch from Rocky Point Cantina to Havana Cabana also invalidated the bar's live entertainment permits, forcing the cancellation of upcoming concerts. Faced with the need to spend hundreds of thousands to bring the building up to code, the owner declared bankruptcy. By 2023, the old Havana Cabana site in Tempe was replaced by a new mixed-use development called Valor on 8th, with apartments and shops, erasing the last traces of Rocky Point Cantina. Before we move on, let's take a closer look at how this bar managed to crash and burn despite the rescue efforts.
They're buying an experience.
In the 4th episode of Season 2 of Bar Rescue, John Taffer took his expertise to the Mystique Lounge, located in West Palm Beach, Florida. This bar, owned by Darren and Torres, was in serious trouble. The establishment's troubles began after a tragic shooting on its premises, leading to a sharp decline in sales. Understandably, patrons were deterred by the negative association with the bar, and despite the best efforts of the owners, the place remained tainted by its dark past.
Whenever someone hears a Mystique, they're gonna hear, oh, that's the place where someone got killed.
The Mystique Lounge had been struggling to recover from the shooting incident, and the owners made a questionable decision to keep the same name. This choice was a critical misstep, as the bar remained linked to its grim history. In an attempt to revitalize the business, the owners hired a promoter named John, hoping to attract a younger crowd.
I'm not here to brag or anything like that, but I started promoting.
Although the promoter managed to bring in some new faces, his strategy also drew in unsavory characters, further alienating potential customers. The result was a bar that was not only struggling with its past reputation, but also dealing with the negative impact of its present clientele.
They come up to us and say, your crowd's starting to change.
They bring in the negativity.
By the time John Taffer and his team arrived, the Mystique Lounge was drowning in debt, $75,000 to be exact, and losing thousands more each week. The desperate situation required immediate and effective intervention. To assess the issues, John enlisted the help of expert mixologist Joe Meyer and Jesse Barnes, a skilled bartender. Their mission was to go undercover and observe the bar's operations from the ground level. Jesse, accompanied by her friends, visited the bar to conduct a thorough inspection. Unfortunately, their experience was far from enjoyable. From the moment they entered, Jesse and her party were largely ignored by the staff.
Staff is just a mess. I mean, it's obviously not a job to them.
When Jesse eventually ordered a Long Island iced tea, it took an inordinate amount of time to receive it. The delay extended to the bottle service as well, with significant wait times to get into the VIP area. To make matters worse, the container they were served had hair on it, and when it was replaced, the new one was dirty. Disgusted by the state of cleanliness, Jessie and her friends refused to drink anything. John Taffer had seen enough. Furious, he stormed into the Mystique Lounge and immediately began pointing out the numerous issues plaguing the bar. The VIP area was in disarray, with staff using a glass to scoop ice instead of a proper ice scooper, a dangerous practice that risked contamination if the glass broke. The staff had to navigate over and under the bar due to its chaotic layout, and the bar floor was covered in mold. The cutting board was filthy, there was no cleaning schedule in place, and the dishwasher was not connected to a sanitizer, leaving the bar's sanitation practices in serious disarray.
I don't even know what color that is. It looks like there's mold.
John made the owners and staff stay late to clean up the mess. The next day, as the cleaning continued, John gathered everyone for a meeting. John, the promoter, demanded free drinks for the people he had brought in, which John firmly rejected. He argued that giving away free drinks was counterproductive and a poor strategy for turning the bar's fortunes around. Despite John's attempts to defend his position, John was resolute. John was effectively making money while the bar continued to lose it, leading to a critical reassessment of the promoter's role in the business.
Whereas you make $61,000 on the door.
The new plan involved Jesse training the staff on bottle service and table management, while Joe focused on teaching the bar staff how to create new drinks and adhere to safer, cleaner practices. However, problems persisted. John's absence during the stress test was particularly problematic, as only 10 people showed up, far fewer than the owners had hoped for.
Have you heard from him?
Nope. We've been trying to call him, can't reach him on his phone.
John's eventual appearance was too late to salvage the situation, and Brittany, one of the bottle service girls, was fired on the spot by Torres for her lack of dedication to the job.
Brittany is sitting at the bar having a cocktail.
The stress test was a disaster. The bar struggled with slow service, and the crowd became unruly. The situation deteriorated to the point where the police were called after a fight broke out, and rumors of a possible gun presence led to a mass exodus of patrons. The chaotic scene was reminiscent of the problems Mystique Lounge faced after the shooting, further underscoring the challenges the bar was experiencing. In response to these issues, the owners decided to sever ties with John and the problematic crowd he attracted. They began seeking new promoters and focused on improving the overall atmosphere of the bar. Jessie continued her efforts to teach the staff about proper presentation, while Joe worked on enhancing the bar's service and drink quality. The rebranding effort was substantial. The bar was renamed Aura Nightclub, symbolizing a fresh start and a break from the negative associations of its former identity. The interior was completely renovated, adopting a high-end Vegas-style vibe that aimed to attract a more upscale clientele. The renovation included brightening up the space and installing a new two-touch POS system to streamline operations and improve efficiency.
Logo was just an M? That baby you can read, can't you?
The relaunch of Aura Nightclub was a significant success.
Oh my God.
The bar was packed, and the new security measures ensured that patrons were screened before entry. The night went off without a hitch, and the rebranding appeared to be a promising move for the bar's future. Initially, things seemed to be on the upswing. 3 months after John's intervention, the owners reported a 25% increase in sales and revenue. The bar also managed to address its safety issues, and the crowd was less rowdy. Despite these improvements, the positive trajectory did not last. Unfortunately, Aura Nightclub shut down for good in 2013, less than a year after the bar rescue episode aired. The reasons behind the sudden closure were not publicly disclosed, and the bar's Yelp rating, which stood at 3.5 stars, was based on a mere 4 reviews. The Mystique Lounge's transformation into Aura Nightclub showcased John Taffer's ability to address both operational issues and reputational damage. However, the eventual closure of the bar highlights the challenges of sustaining improvements in a competitive and fickle industry. After all these failures, what do you think makes a bar rescue truly successful? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications. And if you want to watch another mind-bending video, then make sure to check out this next post right here. It's even crazier.